I've always had headaches ever since I was a teenager. They became so bad in 1986 that I began to go to neurologists to get relief. They prescribed anti-migraine medications, which were in fact psych meds. I didn't know that at the time. Antidepressants, bipolar meds, antipsychotic meds, mood stabilizers. They're often used off-label to treat any number of symptoms. So I was taking medications that I thought were designed to fight head pain, but they were in fact tested for various psychiatric ailments. Between 1986 and 1992, not only did my head pain remain the same, but I began to slowly develop psychiatric symptoms. Increased depression, anxiety, insomnia, and I would vacillate between very dark, depressed states and very manic states. In '92, when I was in Japan, that was my major in school, I experienced my first psychiatric break that necessitated 1 week inpatient care. Didn't know where it came from. I had never had any psychiatric issues before I began taking medications. But I was sort of numb to the reality that the meds themselves could be part of the problem. And so I continued. In fact, I increased my med intake between 1992 and 2012. I went from taking 1 or 2 meds for my head pain, started taking narcotics, opiates for pain as well. And then in 1997, 2000, 2001, it became increasingly clear that I had various mental health issues that had to be addressed in and of themselves. By 2012, I was on 9 different medications. I was on Ambien for sleep. I was on Ativan and Klonopin, 2 benzodiazepines for anxiety. Trazodone for pain and anxiety. I was on lithium because I had been diagnosed bipolar. I was on propranolol to offset the shakes from the lithium. And I was on Depakote for mood stabilization, and Cymbalta for the head pain. That was the original medication I was on. Most days, I would overdose, mildly and sometimes severely. I would have to go to the ER. It's hard when you're taking 9 drugs 2-3 times a day to know how each drug is affecting you and to know if you are in a safe space. In 2012, I decided that I needed to get help for the medication issues. I knew that they were causing more damage and they were threatening me more than they were helping me. And so I came to a facility that is the only inpatient facility that I could find in North America that uses natural means to help wean people off of psych drugs and replace them with natural supplements. And over the course of 3 months that I was inpatient, I got off 4 of the drugs, both benzos, lithium, and trazodone, which I consider to be the greatest threats to me. And then over the course of 13 months after, I slowly got off the remaining 5 drugs. After that, my psychiatric symptoms mysteriously disappeared. My psychiatrist assured me that I would have to be on drugs the rest of my life. He said, "You're bipolar 1, you're putting your life at risk if you get off these medications." Well, I went back to him after I got off all the drugs and said, "Doctor, I don't have any symptoms anymore." And 3 years later, I don't. I do still have pain. I'm in a great deal of pain right now with the lights and the excitement of shooting this. But I found that there are natural ways to deal with pain and with other, even psychiatric issues, taking supplements, managing my energy, managing my focus, has allowed me to deal with the pain much more effectively than any drug has ever done. Now, that's not to say that there aren't specific and necessary uses for some medications. When I was howling and in clear psychosis, antipsychotic meds can dampen your dopamine, can shut down your catecholamines, and can effectively allow you to get through that sort of life-threatening acute psychiatric break. There are times when I have not been able to sleep for days on end because of anxiety or other issues in the past, and a sleeping med used once or twice could help in that. But of the tens of thousands of times that I have taken psychiatric drugs, narcotics, opiates, I can truthfully say that there's only been 5 or 6 occasions where my life was threatened and I needed those medications. Most of the other times, I was taking the medication to get out of anxiety, depression, getting out of a state that I could have dealt with by means other than medication. And that really raises an interesting question. Why did I stay on meds as long as I did? I wanted out. I wanted to stop feeling the way that I was. And I think that that's a very common reason why we take meds. Something is causing us to feel disquiet. Something is causing us to feel a sense of dis-ease. And we don't want to feel that. It's natural. We don't want to feel uncomfortable. And so we ask our doctor, hey, what should we take what should we do to get rid of this feeling? And instead of the doctor telling us, well, there's a reason why you feel that way. Something that matters a great deal in your life is awry, is amiss. Address that. Instead of telling us that, instead of saying, take responsibility for how you feel. Take responsibility for rectifying whatever it is that's causing you to feel that way. Listen to those feelings of anxiety. Listen to those feelings of pain and resolve them. Instead of that, they say, hey, take this, escape from this. Big pharma, these large pharmaceutical firms, they broadcast these messages. You don't have to feel this way. You shouldn't feel this way. Take this and you'll never feel this way again. Well, I don't buy into that. I believe that by listening, by addressing, by resolving whatever it is that we feel, we will become more actualized and we can finally resolve those feelings once and for all. I feel pain because something is threatening me. My boundaries are not very safe. I've become too empathetic. I've started to drink up the emotions or pain of someone else. Well, pain is telling me stop doing that. So by shutting the pain down by the means that I did for the 30 years that I was on psych drugs or opiates or pain meds, I don't address those issues. I just numb myself from having to listen to the signal that it sends me. After getting off my medications, I've become an advocate. In this country alone, there are 80 million people on one or more psychiatric drug. There are 1 million infants and toddlers on psychiatric drugs in this country. That, I believe, is unconscionable. The longer people are on meds, the more likely it is that they will suffer life-threatening, debilitating side effects. The longer that they are on psychiatric drugs, from my experience, from my observation, and my interaction with others, the more likely that they are to develop symptoms that are often diagnosed as mental health illness. There are 500,000 people each year who die from psychiatric drugs in the Western world. It's one of the greatest killers that we have now worldwide. And yet doctors continue to prescribe them, thinking, I'm sure in good faith, that they're doing more good than harm. I disagree. I believe we have to look very carefully at how these drugs are affecting our long-term health. I would like to see studies done. And that's one reason I've set up a nonprofit, the Holistic Mental Health Institute, is to compare supplements with psych drugs, to compare other modalities, healthy alternative modalities to straight psych drugs, and to see which one's more effective. I would like to see how people present once they get off their medications and continue on a healthy regimen of supplements. Do they develop the types of psychiatric symptoms that put them on the drugs in the first place? If we spend the billions of dollars that are used to promote these drugs and investigate safer alternatives, I believe that much of the mental health crisis that is destroying our nation and is sweeping the world can be resolved. Until we do that, if we continue to rely solely on these drugs, if we continue to push them on our children and on our parents, then our culture, our nation, and our world will suffer the consequences.